Welcome to Speak For Yourself from the Crib, presented by Hyundai. Marcel Wiley here. Coming up, we'll tell you if there's a rift in the Lakers locker room over restarting the NBA season. And we're going to have Tom Verducci in the house. Sounds like we might have some baseball after all. We'll talk to Tom about that. But right now, I'm joined by some line-backing beasts. I'm talking about LeVar Arrington, my guy, and Seth Joyner in the house, who just told me he shoots in the 70s in golf. I can't believe him, but looking at him, I might should. All right, y'all, let's start up today talking about Colin Kaepernick, big dog, who may finally have some momentum building for a comeback. Earlier this week, Roger Goodell said he would encourage teams to sign Kaepernick, and now Chargers head coach Anthony Lynn says Cap is on their workout list and has some nice things to say about the long unemployed quarterback.
I haven't spoken with Colin. Not sure if where he's at as far as in his career, what he want to do. But Colin definitely fits the style of quarterback for the system that we're going to be running. And I'm very confident and happy with the three quarterbacks that I have. But you can never have too many people waiting on the runway.
So Seth, you think the Chargers are really interested in Cap?
I heard two words, confident and happy. That tells me that they're not really interested in Cap. That's just Anthony Lynn towing the NFL line that Roger Goodell says, hey, we made a mistake. They didn't say, hey, we made a mistake with Cap. They said we made a mistake not listening to our players. But when I hear what he just said, they have no interest in Kaepernick unless one of those three guys that they got on their roster gets injured.
I tend to agree with you, Seth. I'm wondering why this continues to be it's a conversation because it's Kaepernick. It's being discussed because of the current state that our society has found itself in. Let's be clear and 100% on point with saying what we're saying right now as it applies to why Colin Kaepernick continues to dominate the conversations within the sports realm. They're not really interested, but they're interested in having the conversation. You're not going to run away from the conversation if it's brought up to you. You're not going to brush it off. You're not going to dismiss it, and you're going to entertain it. Why? Because you know what? There's always the chance. There's always the possibility, but you mentioned comfortable and confident, Seth. I heard him sit there and say, I don't know where he is in his career. Like, what head coach sits there and does an interview and says, I don't really know where he is at this point in his career, but, it would be interesting to possibly entertain him, even though I'm confident and happy and content with the three, not two. He said three. Most teams carry two quarterbacks, just so y'all up on game. So, listen, is there a genuine interest? I think there's a genuine interest to try to state what Colin Kaepernick's situation is in a sensitive manner. How about that? But other than that, I don't see it.
Damned if you don't, damned if you do. Woo, y'all went deep on this one. And I hate to do this to my guy, Anthony Lynn, and do it to my team. Y'all know I'm a Chargers fan. Got 8 season tickets, no hookups, no discounts. I bought them as a fan and as a thank you for the big contract. Let's get real about Kaepernick because we know what's going on right here. Coach had to talk out of both sides of his mouth. One side, which is respectful to the organization and their true plans, and one side respecting today's current climate and how everyone has to now show at least an interest in what's going on in our streets and in our society, which I know that Anthony Lynn's heart is in the right place, but I don't expect a plan of action to come from this. Colin Kaepernick will not be a L.A. Charger. Daniel Roper, the athletics beat writer for the Chargers, puts this at 1% in terms of Colin Kaepernick being on the roster. I think that's too high. I give it donuts. Colin Kaepernick will not be on the Chargers roster for many of the reasons you guys just named. Like, where's he going to fit? Think about it. You drafted 6 overall, and you had Justin Herbert on your team. So he's going to be your eventual starter, even though Tyrod's going to start right now. So we already know 1 and 2 is locked in because Tyrod, as a backup, is the perfect professional in that role, and his talent is greater than being a backup. So you got 1 and 2 already slotted. Now we got to go to the third one. And if you start talking about the third guy, what's his name? Easton Stick? Okay, whoever. But it's not about Easton Stick. It's about, is Colin Kaepernick going to be third string on the LA Chargers? No damn way. So let me take off my broadcasting hat, my analyst hat, and put on my publicist hat. Because the only way this story really has juice is if you look at it through the lens of a publicist. Now let's go back to the Chargers a couple years ago when they were in San Diego. And they took a drive up the 5 freeway, 2-hour drive, and doubled their net worth. Wow. Who doesn't take that drive? So they relocate. They almost got screwed out of the relocation and stadium deal. Remember that? NFL had to step in. They come to a LA fan base that went from one day having 0 teams to 2 teams, and then they stick them in a Texas high school football stadium, and then all the fans who want to go to LA for a vacation take over the stadium because it's sunny Southern California, and they get to see some football, and then they all of a sudden start to take this PR hit, and they become a laughingstock. And you fast forward to this offseason, look what's happening. They're in a stadium that is $2 billion over budget, that won't have any fans potentially in it, and is a year late in opening. And ticket sales are a little slow, a little sluggish, they say, despite me buying 8 of them. So here's the thing. If you're a publicist sitting in that round table meeting, you got a different perspective of touching the Colin Kaepernick subject than maybe the head coach does, than maybe the owner does, maybe the head of marketing does, head of community relations does. So I just think right now what we just witnessed was a lot of different mindsets about one player that I don't see ever being on their roster.
Oh, you know, if Roger Goodell doesn't come out with that statement, we're not even talking about Colin Kaepernick right now, to be honest with you. So a lot of that stems from that alone. If we just look at the football side of this, and, you know, that's where I lean more than anything else. If I look at the football side of it, let's look at the quarterbacks that are on their roster. Let's take this Easton Stick out of the equation, okay? Justin Aber, everyone's trying to figure out if this kid is going to develop and how fast he will develop. Given his draft slot, they got to play him at some point. You've got your interim quarterback in Tyrod Taylor. What we know about Tyrod is going to take care of the ball. He's going to be efficient, but he's not going to take chances to throw the ball in tight windows and make the type of plays that can get you where you want to go. Could Cap be a good fit here? I would say yes, strictly from a competition standpoint, because I want as many guys as I can to compete, because the cream always rises to the top. So if you're trying to build a team that can win, then you want that competition. If someone's scared of the competition, then they're in the wrong job. Now, from a PR standpoint, I asked in my podcast yesterday, hey, guys, can Colin come back after 4 years of not being in the league and play? Question number 1. Question number 2, is this a good move for the NFL? I say yes, because from a PR standpoint and the current climate that we find ourselves in and the fact that we've ignored Colin Kaepernick for 4 years, this is a move that some team in the NFL is going to make. It's either going to be, you know, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Tennessee Titans, the Minnesota Vikings, a team like that where he can come in and raise the level of competition and make somebody either step up or step off.
You know, just to add to what you guys are saying PR-wise and looking at competition and can Kaepernick do it, here's a reality check. The business of pro sports is to sell tickets, is to get viewership, is to grow fan base. This is how every player is looked at. Hello? We're asking, is there a genuine interest in Kaepernick? Yes, there is a genuine interest, all right? Let's not, you know, kind of mix up and confuse the topic of conversation here. As a player, I don't see a true, valid, real interest. As a person that can be on my roster, can sell tickets, can sell goodwill, can sell hope, can bring in a tremendous following, that's any player, people. Okay? So when we're sitting here and we're having this conversation about Colin Kaepernick and the unique situation that's surrounding him, yes, the racially driven deals that have followed him losing his ability to have a career in the NFL based off of his protests. That's why we're here with Colin Kaepernick. But these are conversations that are not unique to Colin Kaepernick. You're going to have those conversations about any free agent that is out there. Is this free agent that has a name? I mean, if you don't think that they had that same conversation about Tom Brady before they pulled the trigger on bringing him to Tampa Bay, you're kidding yourself. If you're not thinking that somebody right now is measuring and weighing, can we get ticket sales? Can we get excitement if we bring in Cam Newton? You're kidding yourself. This is what the game is built and based on. So let's not move into this realm of deception where it's like, oh my gosh, are they really interested in Cap now or what have you? Like, reality check, people. This is how they pick and choose some of their players. Sometimes fame and popularity will outweigh your skill and what it is you bring to the table talent-wise as a player.
Way to break down the supposed meritocracy. I used to tell cats all the time, oh, you're not seeing the best 11 on the field. You're seeing probably 7 of the best, and then the other 4 is some kind of mix between contract situations and how much you owe the guy, likability, is he cheaper to keep him in the situation? It's so many other factors as you brought up, and I'm going to bring up the clout. Like, it's right now, the momentum is to touch this subject and to make change. We're living in a world right now where I woke up and you can't even have pancakes anymore. Aunt Jemima's gone. 130 years of Aunt Jemima, and she is gone. Guess what is not going to go away? You're not dismissing Colin Kaepernick and his message anymore. Now, you may dismiss the player, but you ain't dismissing the cause that he stood for. So you got to understand, and I'm glad LeVar pointed that out because I think a lot of times that gets conflated. That said, you also brought up Tom Brady. And Tom Brady is an interesting case study for this situation. Because Tom Brady was this damn close to being an LA Charger. Y'all remember that? And instead, he goes to Tampa Bay, which is, by the numbers, the lowliest franchise in sports history. Like, even the Clippers are looking like Tampa Bay, like, ooh, struggle. But now, they are at the top in terms of off-season Q rating and season ticket sales and jersey sales. Why? Because they brought in somebody with that clout. I don't know how much Brady has left in the tank, but they brought him in for the clout. And I think that's why Anthony Lynn, pure in heart and his intentions of really respecting Colin Kaepernick and his sacrifice, is also like, I'm going to be real. He's not on the schedule to be worked out, but he's on the runway. You know who else is on the runway? A gang of dudes. How many times we used to go by our facilities on Tuesdays and see a gang of dudes just working out? Every week. And then every now and then, it'd be the homie.
That you
like,
knew.
Oh, you get a shot?
Right.
That you knew.
Yes.
In your locker.
This is routine. This is routine.
In your
People just
locker.
say, yeah, we're going to work them out. And using your locker, and you're like, all right, brother. So the point of this is, I don't want anyone to get their hopes up. And don't think that Anthony Lynn and the Chargers are being disingenuous. They really want to do something positive here. It's just they're not going to go to a place to put a player who's 4 years removed from playing football on their roster based on what they have in terms of personnel. Coming up, the NBA is gearing up for a comeback, but is a rift growing between LeBron and his teammates about the relaunch plan? Find out next. Speak for Yourself is presented by Hyundai.
A healthy lifestyle should be easy, right? Eat veggies, drink green smoothies, exercise to get your heart rate up, do yoga to bring your heart rate down. Whew, maybe not so easy, but there is something that helps improve everything, and you can do it with your eyes closed. It's sleep. Sleep Number knows what it takes to sleep your best. The Sleep Number 360 Smart Bed lets you choose your ideal firmness, comfort, and support on each side, your Sleep Number setting. It's the perfect solution for couples. These beds are so smart. They respond to your every move and automatically adjust to keep you sleeping comfortably all night. Proven quality sleep is life-changing sleep. And now, during the lowest prices of the season sale, save $400 on the Queen Sleep Number 360 C4 smart bed, now only $12.99. You only find Sleep Number at Sleep Number stores or by visiting www.sleepnumber.com/cadence.
Welcome back. It's time for a big story sponsored by KFC's $20 fill-up, drive-thrus open, or get delivery by Grubhub. Marcelo Swiley here, joined now by a couple of Fox NBA analysts, Slick Rick the Bucher, and Pretty Jimmy Jackson. What's up, guys? Let's move to the Lakers. The Lakers. As the NBA inches towards relaunching, it's been reported that LeBron is anxious to get back on the court. But this week, a couple of his teammates made it clear they have other things on their mind. First, Dwight Howard said now is not the time for basketball because the world is focused on social justice. And Avery Bradley is echoing Howard, explaining, quote, the actual act of sitting out doesn't directly fight systemic racism, but it does highlight the reality that without black athletes, the NBA wouldn't be what it is today. The league has a responsibility to our communities in helping to empower us, just as we have made the NBA brand strong. Rick, do you think there's a rift in the Lakers locker room?
Obviously, there's a rift in the locker room. Dwight Howard, as you noted, has reservations about playing. Avery Bradley wants concessions before they play, and LeBron James just wants to play. Now, not every guy on every team in every locker room thinks the same way. There are disagreements. There are differing views. The reason that I feel we need to pay attention to this is because of the personal nature of it and the fact that we're going into a situation where the mental tenacity, toughness, and collective mindset is going to be more important than ever. The coaches and players that I've talked to have said that's going to be the biggest challenge here, is everybody together, is everybody on the same page? And while this doesn't have to do with basketball directly, it does have to do with the feelings about playing and a very personal, visceral stand on a very important issue. And so can they overcome it? Yes. But is there a rift that needs to be resolved? There's no question that these guys need to get together and have a meeting of the minds and say, this is why we're playing, and we're all in and playing for this reason.
You know, Rick, I'm going to agree with you on this perspective. Rift, creative differences, difference of opinions, all kind of fall in the same thing, but it's all about how you communicate this. I think where the rift came in at is that George Floyd's death was right at the end of May. Okay, I think May 25th. The vote for to resume the season, I think was around June 5th. So that gives you 11 days to be able to rectify, to throw out anything you have in regards to not being comfortable with the plan before it goes to vote. Okay, so the player reps voted and approved restarting the season. And at no time that I'm aware of did this come up in conversation in these negotiations to restart the season. See, my thing is this. The message and the platform is great. You had 11 days to bring and broach this point during these negotiations before everybody agreed, but it wasn't brought up. So then afterwards, now you come back and say, well, players shouldn't play, okay? That's where the whole thing comes in. It's like, okay, a few days ago, we were all on the same page. What changed? And if it did change, just give me the heads up. Let me know what you're thinking and what's going on so we can talk about it before it looks like we're disjointed, not only as a team as the Lakers, more importantly, as a union, because this puts the executive director, Michelle, in a tough situation because she negotiated a deal with the NBA, and a few days later, it looks like the union is not on the same page. So it's also a rift within the Lakers situation, but keep in mind, it's also a rift within the union because Kyrie Irving is a vice president. He's not just a player's rep. He's right underneath Chris Paul. So we have these two dynamics going on because, to me, it was a lack of communication And with that lack of communication, now you have a lack of trust.
You got me on the fence right here. But I don't see the rift. I disagree with you guys. I don't see the crack. I don't see the split. I don't see the separation in what a team is and the team concept. You got to understand what's happening here. I just see guys who share the same opinion on something, but a different course of action and expressing that opinion. And what's so different about that than any other day on a team? I just disagree with you guys. Like they're disagreeing in terms of what to do. We don't have a rift. We're not monolithic as a team in terms of what we think, whether it's a real issue or just some little minor stuff. Coach stands in front of us and says, hey, practice tomorrow is at 9 a.m. There's guys that are like, man, that's too early. There's guys who are saying, man, I wish it was later, and I wish it was earlier. Like, let's get it out the way. But we always find a way to move forward, even though inside that team concept, there may be a difference of opinion. LeBron James is smart. This is a classic vet move. His silence is not showing any issue with these guys. It's him saying, I'm going to pick my battles. Because we actually are sharing our heart on this situation, but my body's going to do something different and maximize my platform and play basketball because I can chew gum and walk at the same time. He's going to play basketball and enhance his opportunity to broadcast a message to create change. So in this situation, I just see LeBron saying, I'm not going to punch down. If I say anything, I know how that's going to be taken, and we will truly have a rift then. So I think LeBron is just sitting back saying, let these guys work this out. And the NBA just did him a favor. They said June 24th, declare if you're in the bubble or out the bubble. Mm-hmm. LeBron doesn't have to be the enforcer of anything. He just has to wait to June 24th and then call up J.R. Smith and say, yo, bruh, we're missing a couple. Need you, big dog.
But here's the difference, though, Marcellus. You make this point about not being a rip. If I don't want to go to practice, you want to go to practice. I don't like what's on the plane. I don't like the way this play is being ran. That's one thing. The difference here is that you got two key guys on this team that's talking about not playing, not competing for a championship. That's a whole different conversation compared to maybe disagreeing on practice time. That is totally different. So that division right there is going to impact the ability for the Lakers from a depth perspective if they choose not to play. Now, if they choose to play, what kind of attitude are they actually going to bring to the table? Is it going to be real and authentic? 'Cause I still believe the Dwight Howard and Avery Bradley, with the platform they have of the NBA and playing, and especially if baseball is not going to push forward, they can still push the agenda on what they want to get accomplished with a partnership with the NBA during the time in which they're playing. Because they're always going to have a microphone and camera in their face, whether it's at practice, at the game, media sessions, walking around, whatever it may be. So to me, one, do they choose to play? And if they choose to play, what kind of attitude do they bring to the table that can either, one, help the team, two, either hurt the team?
Okay, Jimmy, let's say this, and we don't know this, and I assume this has occurred. LeBron privately has talked to these guys to hear it out, to talk to your teammate. Like, everything doesn't live on social media. Everything doesn't live in reports. Sometimes it's just, hey, man, how are you really feeling? What are you really doing? What's the situation at hand for you? Talk to me emotionally. Talk to me naked emotionally. I want to see it. I want to hear it. And then let's see what's our game plan from there. We don't know that. But I can assume if that occurs, they're going to be able to iron this out as a team in terms of agreement. Like, you can be still feeling that way and standing on that side, but let's walk together and go get this job done. And this job right now is a dual mindset in terms of trying to create the change and also going out there and trying to win the championship. That said, LeBron James also is going to talk back to those guys and say, look, let me tell you something. I created a show called Survivor's Remorse. And I used to love this show. I don't know if it was critically acclaimed or not, but it was amazing. A young basketball player who made it. And then they just showed all the issues that come from actually making it, surviving the neighborhood and accomplishing your goals. And one thing I noticed about that show that I see in real world society is that There's just too much emphasis on staying down, being down. When I was in that situation of being down, I wanted people to stay up and use their resources and their alliances and grab all of those resources and bring them back. Don't show me that you are with me by trying to stay down with me. And I think that LeBron will talk to them in the creation of that show and having it executed will let them know, hey, man, you do the best for what you're trying to accomplish by going as high as you can, not trying to aim back down at the people, taking your ball and going home and hoping that people still care about the message the same.
Marcellus, you said that not everything lives on social media. Kind of feel like LeBron does live on social media. We know most of what he's doing and thinking via social media. And if he had not said anything on this subject and was just laying low, I would be with you on that. But he clearly was instrumental in the negotiations in bringing back this idea that we're going to play and restart. And he hasn't said anything since then. And we've only had a report out of New York that he was anti-Kyrie and wasn't on the call last Friday. So there's that rift. And Avery Bradley, Lakers teammate, is obviously on Team Kyrie. So the other element here is the fact that this is now public. So whatever happens with Avery Bradley or Dwight Howard or LeBron James, if they all come back and play, those questions are going to be asked. If one of them doesn't play, it's going to be asked. Look, Kawhi, Paul George, Montrezl Harrell, Pat Bev, they could all have a difference of opinion. They could be in the same boat. Any number of teams could. But it's not public fodder, and LeBron James isn't attached to it. So if nothing else, this is now a subject and a distraction that the Lakers are going to have to deal with on some level. And that, whether you want to call it a rift or a disagreement, it's not a positive for the Lakers in their quest to win a championship.
What's amazing is us discussing the rift created a rift between us. I do not want to deal with you guys going forward. I don't know what y'all talking about. Go Clippers.
We can agree to disagree.
Absolutely.
There it is. Hey, a wounded Lakers team helps my Clippers anyway. Hey, y'all figure this out. Coming up, guys, looks like we finally have some good news in baseball. Our guy, Tom Verducci, joins the show to give us the latest. Next.
Talking about ED isn't easy. Usually we just brush it off or blame ourselves, saying things like, I lost my mojo. Or we avoid it altogether with excuses like, I had a long day at work, or sorry, honey, just not feeling it. But with Roman, it is easy to talk about it with a real doctor who can prescribe real medication. It's simple, safe, and totally discreet. With Roman, you can get a free online evaluation and ongoing care for ED, all from the comfort and privacy of your home. The doctor will work with you to find the best treatment plan possible. If medication is appropriate, Roman will ship it to you with free 2-day shipping. The whole process is straightforward, simple, and discreet. Getting started is simple. Just go to GetRoman.com/speak and complete an online visit. ED used to be tough to tackle, but now there's Roman. Complete an online visit today to connect with a doctor and take care of it. Just go to GetRoman.com/speak to get a free online visit and free 2-day shipping. That's GetRoman.com/speak for a free visit to get started. GetRoman.com/speak.
That's my welcome back to Speak for Yourself from the Crib, presented by Hyundai. Marcellus Wiley, joined now by Tom Verducci. Oh, we about to talk some baseball. Let's get right to it, Tom. Reports say that MLB and Players Union are closing in on a deal. What's the latest you're hearing?
Well, there's no deal yet. The union is studying the proposal from the owners right now, but everything right now looks like it's heading in the right direction. The union could still come back with one final counter proposal, but it looks to me now that the owners came forward with a deal designed to reach a settlement. We've gone back and forth with proposals from different sides that to me seem like proposals designed to win the negotiations. This time we've got one finally where there's give and take, and most importantly of all, Marcellus, is the deadline, the artificial deadline of getting something together to save the season. Essentially, they were up against it, and there was actually a face-to-face meeting between Rob Manfred and Tony Clark. And after tense negotiations being done essentially electronically with emails going back and forth, to me, this is the way you get something done. You look somebody in the eye and say, let's get down to brass tacks.
Yeah, you humanize the issues. You have a different look at those same issues once you humanize them. I love that. But what was the biggest obstacle between both sides?
Well, it started out with the players insisting that they would not take anything, what they called a second pay cut. In other words, they agreed to take salaries on a prorated basis based on the number of games played, 100% of their salaries divided by games played. The owners have tried to get that number down, that 100%. The owners came back and said, all right, we'll give you that 100%. So what did the owners get? They get control of the calendar because the players wanted more games to push the postseason into November, like deep into November. We're talking Thanksgiving baseball. And the owners didn't want that. They're really worried about a second surge of the coronavirus, which would threaten the postseason. And there's $1 billion of TV money tied up in the postseason. So the owners are able to keep the schedule they want. Regular season ends on September 27th. The World Series will be over by November 1st. So the owners get what they want in terms of the calendar. Players get what they want in terms of pay. And I can tell you this, both sides got the expanded postseason they want, right? 8 teams in each league, 16 in all, going to the postseason. That means for the players, you've got more players can take part in postseason baseball. And for the owners, that means you've got more money coming in because they can already sell and have sold more inventory of postseason games because the first round now is going to be a best out of 3 or best out of 5 instead of just the wild card. So more money coming in to offset the losses from postseason games.
Okay, so walk with me through this. You're approaching the deadline, so obviously you're going to have a different sense of urgency. You humanize the negotiation by actually talking face-to-face, but why couldn't things have worked out differently a couple weeks ago?
I think there was a lot of posturing going on here. I think the history between these two sides came into play. Let's face it, the last CBA probably was more owner-friendly than player-friendly. And I think essentially we go back to that 100% prorated stance that players took. They took that line in the sand really early, Marcellus, and they were just not giving up on that. So the owners kept coming back with proposals that went absolutely nowhere. So now as the clock was ticking down, not much time left on the clock to salvage a season, I think both sides realized it's important that baseball get back on the field. Neither side wanted to be looking at a 17-month period without a Major League Baseball game being played. So I've said this all along. That's the biggest motivation of all to get a deal done. You cannot let 17 months go by with your sport out of sight and out of mind, whether you're an owner or a player.
Yeah, Tom, it's not just that baseball's been gone and missing, absent from our experience. It's been filled with a ton of negative publicity. So how difficult will it be for baseball to rebuild their reputation?
I actually don't think it's going to be that difficult, and I'll tell you why. This is going to be a season unlike anything that we've seen. If it's 60 games, if, say, the players come back and want 65 or 70, let's say 60 to 70 games. That means we've got a pennant race from Jump Street. From day one of the season, man, there is urgency. People complain the season's too long, that too many meaningless games. There are no meaningless games now. And with 8 teams in each league going to the playoffs, it's going to be a scramble to see who gets in. I mean, it's hard to get yourself eliminated with 8 teams going in a 60-game season. So I think you're talking about September, where virtually every game on an individual night will have playoff implications. So I've always thought, Marcellus, that once baseball gets back on the field, the narrative changes, that Tony Clark and Rob Manfred fade into the background and players and pennant races become the narrative. And I think we're getting really close to that point.
Okay, I'm putting Tom Verducci on the hot seat June 17th right now. How confident is Tom Verducci we'll see baseball this year?
Well, I guess I shouldn't say 100% after the commissioner walked that back when he took that stance last week. But
right.
listen, from back in March, man, I've been optimistic that there will be baseball again because the downside's too big. That, to me, was driving this whole thing. It took, too many wrong turns to get here to this point. But I do think I'm confident that we will have a baseball season. And to me, I know it's not quote unquote legitimate. It's not 162 games. But I can tell you this, it's going to be exciting because it's a short season. And I'm looking forward to that.
All right, Tom, next time we have you on, let's talk baseball, not negotiations. Looking forward to that. Thank you, brother. And coming up, is Lamar Jackson afraid of a rivalry with Patrick Mahomes? Ooh, we'll tell you what to make of the MVP's latest comments next. Speak for Yourself, presented by Hyundai. Welcome back to Speak for Yourself from the Crib, presented by Hyundai. Marcel Swiley here, joined once again by LeVar Arrington and Seth Joyner, Mr. 5 Handicap himself. Look at him. Let's move to Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, who've taken home the last 2 MVP awards and appear to be at the beginning of what a lot of people hope will turn into a long and intense quarterback rivalry. But according to a new interview, Lamar Jackson isn't one of those people.
I'm not trying to have no rivalry. I don't really look at it like rivalry and stuff like that. I'm just playing football and trying to win. And he been winning right now, so it ain't no rivalry right now.
Seth, disappointed in Lamar here?
Not really, because you know what? Lamar Jackson is 0-2 against the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. So there really is no rivalry right now. At the other end of the spectrum, Lamar Jackson just needs to worry about getting better instead of talking about a rivalry. We, the media, they're going to create a rivalry. This is the beginning of Peyton Manning and Tom Brady all over again. When you look at these 2 guys, they're the 2 best quarterbacks on the 2 best teams in the AFC. They're going to be battling it out for the next couple of years. So we're going to create the rivalry for him. He doesn't need to buy into all of this hype and whatnot. He needs to just continue to develop and grow and get better and let the chips fall where they may and try to get off the snide against the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes.
I totally agree with you, Seth. I look at what he said and where everybody currently is right now. The media will turn this into a rivalry if they continue on the trajectory that they're on right now. Both are MVP winners. One now has a Super Bowl. The other is close and surging. And they're both very young. So it'll be interesting to see how it develops. But I will say this. It was an interesting observation to hear the last part of what he said. It's not a rivalry right now. He said it ain't a rivalry right now. So when you sit there and you think about maybe what the cryptic hidden message of this could be, Marcellus and Seth, he basically saying he up right now, but Lamar coming. All right? Case closed.
Look, I know we want the smoke. I mean, this almost feels grade school. Like, we want them to meet at the flagpole and go at it. Like, we are rooting for the smoke. But I love the maturity and the continued growth that I continue to see for Lamar Jackson, not only on the field, but off the field, man. This is a very responsible stance. What's the old saying? Comparison is the thief of joy. Woo-hoo! Theodore Roosevelt or something. You know why that's so necessary to remember when you're talking about these 2? Because, as you said, Seth, why would I want to compare myself to anyone, let alone potentially the greatest quarterback in history? He's certainly on pace for it. 25 years and younger, already an NFL MVP and a Super Bowl MVP. Stop playing. I'm not trying to compare myself to that. On top of that, why would I want to rob myself of the experience of enjoying everything I'm going through? When you start comparing yourself to someone else, admit it. It's already putting you in a mindset that's binary. Either you're superior or inferior. When it's hard enough to be your own self, let alone now I got to go out there and potentially keep pace with this guy. And it's funny you bring up he's 0-2 against Patrick Mahomes. That's not the worst part. He's only lost 3 regular season games. And 2 of them to this dude?
Oh, wow.
Oh, y'all must think I'm boo-boo the fool if I'm going to compare myself to Patrick Mahomes, especially right now.
Hey, Marcellus, you did say you liked his maturity, but you was talking earlier this week about how you didn't like how he ran into that jet ski. I just thought I'd bring that up right now. So I need to know, is the maturity there or is it not there? Is it Sea-Doo worthy? Or because right here I'm looking at them flip-flops gone. Okay, all right. And then here we go. There's maturity was right there in the water and he tripped over it. I'm just saying.
That's a real teammate right there to point out what I said in the contradiction. It's in my notes, and I left them out on purpose. Damn you for bringing it up, messing up my argument. It doesn't fit for right now. All right, y'all, let's move to Tom Brady, who just made his first appearance in his new uniform, looking sweet, too. With the Bucs dropping some photos of the GOAT in their colors yesterday, Brady was pumped, writing, "Let's effing go." Okay. But his own OC, Byron Leftwich, actually thinks the quarterback could have a big obstacle to deal with as he starts over in Tampa, explaining, quote, "I think the greatest challenge is this. He's been somewhere for 20 years. You guys know, some of you may have worked at the same job for 20 years, and you've done something for 20 years in one spot, and there's change. It's automatically different. It doesn't matter if it's for better or for worse. It's just different. Now try to communicate with him. I want him to talk just football." Seth, are we underestimating the challenge Brady's facing?
Nope. Because at 42 years old, this man is still driven to be Super Bowl champion and prove to everybody else that he is as important in winning those Super Bowls in New England as Bill Belichick was, okay? So I'm not buying into this. I'm not buying into it. You know, Byron, I love the guy, great offensive coordinator, knows what he's talking about, but I think he's underestimating Tom Brady because Tom Brady is on a mission. And you've given him all these weapons. You've given him a head coach whose mindset is like his, with a defensive coordinator that's been proven in the league and a defense that's coming. Listen, I'm not worried about Tom Brady. Tom Brady ain't worried about Tom Brady. Byron Leftwich shouldn't be worried about Tom Brady. Listen, this is a good marriage, and this is going to be straight fire right here. The NFC should be very worried.
I look at it from this perspective. I can recall, and I'm not Tom Brady. I'm just trying to give some content and perspective here. When I left Washington and went into New York, things like staying and signing autographs for an extra hour to an hour and a half before and after games, I didn't want to do it in New York. Different things that I did, how my locker was set up, the LA Nation, I called them in DC with Brad Berlin. Shouts out to Brad, which he's in Tampa, by the way. And I had my whole setup, the way they put my pads on, the way we dapped each other up, my chewing gum, my smelling salts, everything was in order. It's all about the off-field stuff to me that I'm looking at what Byron is saying is very, very applicable here. It's not going to be the player, but we may underestimate the patience, the energy, the buy-in and commitment to being what Tom Brady was, to build who Tom Brady was in New England, which may not be necessary where he's at anyway. But I know I was getting heckled like I was on the Redskins as a New York Giant because of some of the things that I was tired of doing by the time I had got to New York.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like that you pointed out it's the day-to-day practical things that really is going to upset Tom Brady's norms. And think about that. We all know if you're on the field, a thinking player is a slower, worse player. He has to now start to think of what's different in this culture, what's different in his norms, what's different in his day-to-day customs. And that may have a different effect on him. We don't know how he responds to that. On the field, it's kind of like riding a bike. You don't forget how to do it. He always works out with different receivers, whether it's just the personnel changes over 20 years in New England or in his off seasons that he spends sometimes in L.A. And you can see Tom Brady out there throwing it to numerous receivers. So I'm not so worried about him on the field still being Tom Brady, but you just can't put on your jersey and say, I used to be great, so I'm going to be great here. There is going to be some kind of change that will have an impact on him. And remember, this is not Tampa Bay. What they call it? Tampa Bay? It's Tampa Brady, because in New England, all the attention went to him. It also went to Belichick. Also went to Kraft. Oh, you the Lone Ranger in Tampa Bay, brother. They are all coming for you. And we know with the intention and criticism, some guys have to respond. We'll see how Brady does. Coming up, we'll give you our latest approval rating with Uncle Jimmy. LeBron James, what does he think of him and the possible rift in this Lakers locker room? Look forward to it all. Speak for yourself, presented by Hyundai. Welcome back to Speak for Yourself from the crib. Joined now by Uncle Jimmy, Dwight Howard, Avery Bradley, speaking out. They're going against the NBA's relaunch plan right now. But LeBron James says, I'm ready to play some ball. Is there a rift in the Lakers locker room?
Hey, man, remember the movie Black Panther? When your boy said, Is this your king? Is this your leader? That's what Kyrie Irving is doing to LeBron James right now. Okay?
Oh,
you understand what I'm saying?
Wow.
See, look here, man, for real. See, because LeBron James, man, he talks a real mean game about the injustices of social injustice. Okay? But right about now, you see what I'm saying? Right about now, he might be a little bit more. He just might be a little bit more like he just done lost it. You see what I'm saying?